So this is where we left off from last time. I did change this to part 2. Part 1 will be linked in the description below, along with the final results of this video. So you can see a before and after from part 1 to part 2. We're going to concentrate on 2 areas in this video. First, we're going to change the way we do the completion percentage here. We're going to make it more of a weighted completion. And I'll explain that more when we get into that part of the video. And then we want to do an overall statistic of our project management system. I want to create a panel that gives me a snapshot at a glance. How many projects do we have? How many completed projects do we have? How many tasks and how many completed tasks do we have? So let's concentrate on the completed percentage here. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to go open one of our projects here. I'm going to go full screen. And the way we're calculating this completed percentage here is taking the number of completed tasks, dividing it by the number of total tasks, and we get our completed percentage. We're doing this through a roll-up with the built-in calculations here. This is the percent checked here. Now I have one big issue with this, and this assumes that all tasks are created equal. In other words, some things take longer than others, and I put more weight to them. So we want to assign weights to these different projects. For example, writing a script may be 3 or 4 times the weight of just uploading to YouTube. This may take me a whole day or 2 to write a script, and the uploading of YouTube only takes me 5 to 10 minutes, depending on the length of the video. So I want to assign a different weight to this, writing a script, as opposed to uploading a YouTube video. So we're going to add weights to these different tasks and then calculate the completed percentage based on the weight. The first thing we're going to do is add a new column. We're going to call it weight, and we're going to make it a number field. Now we're going to run into a few issues here right away. First, our weight is blank. And in my case, if the weight is blank, I want it to at least be 1. And the only way to do a default value in Notion is to use the matter of templates. So we're going to create a new template here, and I'm going to make that untitled, and we're going to make sure the weight is 1. So now we have a new template, and we need to make this the default template. So let's assign that to be the default for all tasks. Yes. Now, the problem is, now we have this, it's still blank. We can't assign or put values to existing rows. Now, if I do add a new task here, it does assign it a weight of 1. So what we have to do is go into all our tasks here, and this is my entire tasks database, and just go down and assign 1 to every task. Now, this may or may not be practical for some of you because you may have hundreds and hundreds of tasks. So there is a way around it, and we're going to be using some formulas here. And so what I'm going to add another field here called calculated weight. Make this a formula. And the formula that we're going to use is if weight, that means if it exists, then output weight. Else, it's going to be 1. That way, no matter if the weight is assigned, if the weight column is assigned, we're always going to have at least 1. And then if I change this, and let me move this over for us to see. And if I assign this 2, the calculated weight will be 2. Now we still need to do a little bit more work to this, and let me show you why. If we go up here and to try to add another property, let's say completed weighted, we're going to make this a roll-up to our tasks. And now our calculated weight does show up, and we can get the sum of all the calculated weights, which we will eventually need. I want to get all those tasks that are checked and then calculate the weight and sum of those. In other words, we're missing a feature here in Notion. I want to be able to do conditional roll-ups here. Well, we can't do that currently. I'm going to go ahead and delete this property. So there's a little bit of extra work that we need to do in the tasks database itself. I want to create a new property here called completed weight. And we're going to make this a formula. And I'm going to bring this all the way here. So here's our formula. We want to see if it's completed, the property is checked basically, then let's output the calculated weight. Now, if it's not checked, then our calculated weight will be 0. So we can see this working. This completed weight is 0, but now it's 1 based on whether this is completed or not. So now we can do our calculations of our completed weight. We can basically say the sum of the completed weight divided by the sum of the calculated weight. So let's do that now. So now we can go up to the properties of our projects database here, and we want to bring in the 2 new fields that we created in our task database. So we're going to do that by rollups here. So we're going to do total completed here, or let's say total weight actually. And we're going to do a rollup of our task database. Now we're going to get the calculated weight, and we're going to get the sum of all the calculated weights here. So let's sum, and now we have our total weight of 10. Now we want to do our total completed weight. We're going to make this also a rollup of our task database. Now we can do the completed weight here, and we're going to do the sum of that. So now that we have our total completed and total weight, we can do a calculation now of our completed weight. So let's create our new formula here, completed weight. Make this a formula. And now we're going to do total completed weight divided by total weight. And we're going to make this a percent, do visually. And now we have our total weight completed. This is dividing quite nicely at 60%, but if I change this weight to 3, we're going to see what it does. It gives us all these decimal places. So let's round this to the nearest, let's say 1 decimal place here, the 10th decimal place. And what we can do is we can times this by 1,000. I put this whole thing in parentheses so I can do dot notation and just round it. And then we're going to divide it by 1,000. And this will give us our percentage to the 10th place. And then we can come back down here to our task database here. And this is, remember, this is a linked view of the tasks. So we can go to our properties here and just kind of hide the calculated weight and the total calculated weight and the completed weight, because we don't really need to see those. We only need to see the weight and kind of change the weight as we need to as well. And then we can do the same thing. We need to go up to our projects or main dashboard here. Let's go to our projects panel, and I'm going to go to our properties. And now we want to show the completed weight and not just the completed field or property. And I can actually delete the completed property, but we're just going to leave it in for now. We can do the cleanup later. So now we have our proper completed weight. Now, if you don't want to use the completed weight or worry about different weights, not to worry. You can still use this. Remember that everything that is not weighted will still have a calculated weight of 1. So we don't have to worry about that right now. Now we want to create a new panel here called statistics. And this new panel is going to have a snapshot, an overall view of my entire project management system here. There are 4 stats that I'm going to display in this panel. I'm going to display the total number of projects, the total number of completed projects, the total number of tasks, and the total number of completed tasks. Now, there are calculations that we can do, but let's say in the projects database here, I'm going to say calculate and count all. And now I have a calculation of 5 total projects. But the problem is there's no way for me to grab this number and display it somewhere else. So we're going to have to do a different trick here. And we're going to have to create an entire new database called statistics. The statistics is going to have a relation to the projects. And because the projects already has a relation to the tasks, we can grab the numbers that we need for the tasks based on that relation. So let's go ahead and set up a new statistics relation or database with a relation to the projects. I'm going to create a new section here called statistics. We're going to make that a heading 2. This is where our panel is going to go. And then we're going to create a new database. We're going to say database full page. We're going to call this statistics. What we need to do is create a relation with our projects now. So let's call this projects and create a relation. And this is going to be to our projects database. And I want this to show up in our projects database as well, and we'll get to that in a moment. So now we have our projects database, and since we're showing one statistic and we're showing all the projects, this kind of a total combination of all the projects, what we need to do is we need to create a field with all our projects in there. So if you have a lot of projects, this is going to be a little bit painful. You need to add every project to your relation here, and we're going to call this statistics. And then we're going to delete these rows here because we don't need them anymore. Basically, we're only going to be using one row here. So now we have our projects relation here, and let's go back to our statistics here. I'm going to worry about this later, but let's go into our template here, and we need to edit our template for our default projects template. And we want to make sure our statistics here relation, you always choose that field that we added. So that way, every new project that we create is going to be related to that one statistic line item row. Remember, the 4 different stats that we want to capture are the total number of projects, and I'm actually going to change that to active projects. And then we want to do completed projects, we want to do total number of tasks, and completed tasks. Now we have a way to track the completed tasks because we have this completed checkbox. As far as the projects are concerned, to see if something is active or completed, you could do completed when this is 100%, but let's make our life easier and just have a stats or a status. So we're going to go into our projects here and add a new field called status. And we are going to use the default type in Notion here. And we now have our status here. And the default values in our status here is not started, in progress, and done. So we're worried about in progress, which will be our active projects, and then our completed projects, which would be done. So let's change some of these to, let's say, in progress. I'm going to say this is done and say in progress. So our stats should say we have 3 active projects and 1 completed project. And we can go back out here into our statistics, and let's find out how we can calculate those right now. For each of our stats, we're going to create a new property or column. So we're going to have 4 new properties or columns. The first one being active projects. So we're going to make this a formula, and the formula is related to our relation, which is projects. And we're just going to use the filter function. We're going to filter out the ones that have a status of in progress. And the way we do that is we say use a current variable, which pretty much loops through all the different items, and we can tap into the individual columns. So we say current.status equal to in progress. And then we want to count how many that is. So we say length, and this should give us 3 active projects. Now we want to add our completed projects, which is pretty much the same type of formula. So we're going to create the completed projects, making this a formula, and we're going to do a very similar formula. We're going to do our projects relation, filter it, current status, this time equals to done, and we're going to do the length of that. And now we have our completed projects. Now we want to get the total number of tasks. We can actually do this through a rollup. So let's say total tasks, doing a rollup based on our projects. And now we're going to go to our other relation within our relation, which is the tasks. And what we can do is, if you say count all, this is going to show 5, which is not the right number. I think what it's doing, it's counting the number of sets. So there's 5 total projects, 5 total sets of tasks. But we want to count all the values. So we count the values, and there's a total of 27 tasks. Now we want to get the number of total completed tasks. And because the tasks database is related to the projects and not to the statistics database directly, we're going to have to do the calculations in our projects first and then bring that calculation down as a rollup into our statistics database. So let's go back into our projects database here. And we're going to remember, we're not doing the completed weighted. We just wanted the number of completed tasks here. So we're going to create a new field called completed tasks. And naturally you would think, okay, let's do a rollup, and this will make it easier. And we can just say the checked or completed box here. And we just want to count all the checked boxes here. And this gives us our completed tasks. But this is not going to work because this is a rollup. A rollup cannot be inherited by another rollup. So if we go back into our statistics database here, and I try to add a completed tasks here, and we're going to make this a rollup of our projects database, our property of our completed rollups is not, or completed tasks is not showing up here. It shows the completed weighted one because it's a formula, but it's not showing the completed tasks because that's a rollup. You can't do a rollup of a rollup in Notion at this moment. So what we need to do is convert that particular property, our completed tasks, into a formula. So let's make that a formula right now. And what we're going to do now is we're going to use our tasks relation, and similar to the other filters that we did with our statistics, we're going to do a filter. We're going to say current, and we want to say the completed ones. So if we just say completed, this means it's true. If the other ones will not show up. So we're going to just say also length. And now we have our completed tasks the same way we did with a rollup, but now it's a formula. So if we go back into our statistics database here, we're going to change this rollup, and it's still going to be a rollup, but we're going to use now the completed tasks here. And it's now showing up because it's a formula. And then we're going to do the sum of all these. So now we have a total of 7 completed tasks. So now the next thing we want to do is, how do we output all this and how do we show it on our dashboard? The way that we're going to output all these stats and display it is we're going to create a new property called output. And this will be a formula type now. And I'm actually going to move this to the front. And basically, we're going to grab all the stats that we have, these 4 different stats, and output it into one field. Okay, so we're going to go in order here. We're going to go active projects, completed projects, total tasks, and completed tasks. So our formula first is we're going to say, we're going to do a string here called active projects. I'm going to do colon space plus, this will concatenate our strings here, and we're going to say active projects. Okay. If I hit done, it shows active projects. Now I want to do the rest of them. And the way in a formula is you can say a new line, you could do a \n, and I'm going to go ahead and hit Shift Enter on my Mac here. Actually, I have to go back here, add another plus, and we're going to go completed projects. And we're going to grab that property. We're going to do another new line. Now we're going to do total tasks. Another new line. And completed tasks. And we can hit done. So now we have our output here. So let's go to the dashboard and output this in a new panel up here in the statistics area here. So right now in our dashboard, if I zoom all the way out again, we have a link to our stats database here, but I'm just going to go ahead and move this onto our list of databases here. And now we're going to create a new linked view of our database. And we're going to pick the statistics one. And we're going to change it from a table layout to a gallery layout. And we're not going to show the title here. The card preview will be none. And then we're going to go back to, well, let's make this a large one. Let's go back to the properties that are shown. We're going to show only our output here. And now we can see we have our statistics here. And then we're going to format this even further. I'm going to go into our statistics output here. Let's go into our formula here. And let me zoom in a little bit here to the formula. And I want to make these strings here bold. So what we can do here is put parentheses around the actual string here, and we could say style. Remember, this is dot notation, and say bold. So if I zoom out here, now we have a bold string here. I'm going to go ahead and do this with the other titles here. And now we have a bold text for all our titles here. And then if we go back to our dashboard, we see that it stands out a little bit more. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see it. And now we have a statistics of our entire project management system here at a glance. I went ahead and added some icons to our headers to kind of spruce up the look of our dashboard here. With the projects dashboard here or panel, we can actually say groups, since we are now separating things by status here. And I'm going to go ahead and manually change this to have our active projects on top, completed ones in the middle, and the ones that we haven't started yet below. This has been part 2 of my Notion project management system. What are other things that we should add to this system? What other questions do you have, or other things that you're trying to figure out that you don't know how to do? Leave a comment below. I don't mind continuing this series of videos or creating all new Notion videos. If you found this video helpful, hit that like button. Consider hitting that subscribe button. Until the next one, see ya.